News broke this morning that, as was sort of previewed last night, some sort of phase one trade agreement between China and the United States has been reached. Although, depending on who you talk to, some of the details are either already hammered out and very specific or just in the very beginning of being talked about. We're going to get to that. But the title of this stream is meant to allude to the fact that much of the good news that I have seen profiled when in the initial news reports they're talking about this deal is simply going back to the status quo before Donald Trump was in charge of U.S. trade policy. And I think that some reporters are either confused about that or just looking to give, a positive spin to something that Donald Trump has done, perhaps in pursuit of balance. And so they are tripping over themselves to declare that this is some sort of major win for him when it appears that, at best, he has saved us from himself. So let's talk about this. He tweeted out, "We've agreed to a very large phase one deal with China. They've agreed to many structural changes and massive purchases of agricultural product, energy, and manufactured goods, plus much more." Yeah, they're going to be buying our electricity. "The 25% tariffs will remain as is, with 7.5% put on much of the remainder." So that appears partially true, although we're not entirely sure, because Trump doesn't seem to be agreeing with either the trade representatives for China or his own U.S. trade representative, because depending on who you listen to, the details for the plan are different. I am going to assume... Oh, someone's pointing out, yes, if you all could just quickly hit the like button, I'd really appreciate that. Make sure that people actually get the notification that this video is going out. That would be very nice. Thank you. Announcement from U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer specified that the U.S. would keep 25% tariffs on some $250 billion of Chinese imports, but drop the rate to roughly 7.5% tariffs on another $120 billion in imports. And related to that, the deal also scrapped a new round of 15% tariffs scheduled to go into effect on over $150 billion of imports this weekend. So they have scaled back some of the tariffs that Trump put on all of these products. China is going to scale back some of the tariffs they put on imports from the U.S. that they put on as a result of Trump's tariffs. And we didn't get new tariffs that Trump was warning to put onto things. So, yay! Yay for America. So why did we have any of this in the first place? Because Trump felt like deals are really easy, trade is super easy, I'm going to do this and it's going to be awesome. This write-up in The Hill says, the deal could offer Trump a boost going into the 2020 election. But he's just repairing some, but not all of the damage that he himself has done in his petulant, childish, blundering attempt to extort China into helping us out economically. It might be, they're not even wrong necessarily. It might be a boost to him, but only because the media won't actually identify what is happening. This is a guy who we should congratulate for saving us from our burning house and conveniently ignore that he set the fire in the first place. And that's what he keeps doing. He keeps getting us into these horrible situations and then backing off from the brink, and we're supposed to thank him. It's like, yeah, man, Superman's awesome. He saved my life. I was about to fall to my death, but he didn't drop me. No, that's not how it works. You're supposed to fix this from objective problems, not problems that are your own fault. So that's just really weird. And look, it's not like there's nothing good in this. Supposedly, China is going to agree to, at some point, some change to the way that they handle intellectual property, which is long overdue, but also not guaranteed. This is, again, just the first portion of this entire thing. Jeez. The progressive way. Is that true, or are you just... I don't have my phone, so I can't check.
What do you think?
Can you check, just Google, can I even say... Someone said that AOC endorsed Cenk. I didn't see that. But anyway, so again, hit the like button if you haven't already. I really do appreciate that. So that's what's going on. This just came out, so we don't know much more. I can't say for sure how much there is to know, because we've heard these sorts of assurances that, hey, it's coming, it's going to be great, and then nothing actually happens. So... okay, so that's what we know there. I did want to just briefly give credit. This is a story that I intended to get to yesterday, and that has to do with Chris Wallace. He was recently giving a speech, and he went into his issues with the way that Donald Trump is attacking the press in the U.S. This is something that I've talked about a lot over the past few years. It's not often that we have somebody on the right who also is diagnosing the same problem. So he said that Trump is engaged in the most direct, sustained assault on freedom of the press in our history. Quote, he has done everything he can to undercut the media, to try and delegitimize us, and I think his purpose is clear, to raise doubts when we report critically about him and his administration that we can be trusted. Let's be honest, the president's attacks have done some damage. He cited a poll that showed that almost a third of Americans think the First Amendment goes too far. Got to protect that Second Amendment, but I'm really worried about somebody saying something. Yeah, and he says 3/4 say that fake news is a serious threat to our democracy. I mean, that's kind of a difficult survey result to analyze because very different groups of people are going to define fake news in different ways. And so you could have a bunch of MAGA people saying that criticizing Trump is a threat to democracy and calling that fake news. And then you could have people who actually know what fake news is, purposefully making up a fake story and then cloaking it with the sort of visual image that it's from a real news source. That is what fake news is. And so I would agree that fake news is a threat to democracy, but I do not mean the same thing as what those other people mean. But I'm glad that he's saying this. I feel like a lot of... I think it was just a random comment somebody sent, but thank you. I've been talking about this nonstop, and I think that most people, the media, like feels free to criticize Donald Trump in some ways, but even in this, when it comes to threats to their legitimacy or even to their lives, I think some in the media, they just don't want to identify the danger that is being threatened. Maybe it seems like they'll seem biased or something, or I don't know, but it's been very frustrating. Theo, thank you. And I don't know if I've seen any other right-winger analyze the problem as honestly. I don't disagree with virtually anything that Chris Wallace said there. He's probably going to be attacked as a result of it because in the past when he's been critical of Donald Trump has gone out of his way to attack him, bringing up his father and things like that. Lots of projection there. But anyway, good job by Chris Wallace. I also just wanted to briefly say there's an article right now on The Nation titled, "We have just been handed the Pentagon Papers of our generation." And that's referring to the thousands of pages of documentation of the history of the war in Afghanistan, detailing how many lives were lost needlessly, how much money was spent, the lack of preparation, the confusion that the military higher-ups were experiencing during it, the lack of a clear mission, the expansion of the mission. It is a damning indictment of that entire conflict from the very beginning, and the media is talking about it almost not at all. Over the weekend, the vast majority of CNN and MSNBC shows didn't say anything about it. This should be a massive scandal. I mean, it goes back, it's 2 decades of a complete abdication of responsibility from the government to not waste the American taxpayers' money, not to have their soldiers die needlessly while also killing tons of civilians along the way. And a lot of people just don't seem to care. I don't know if maybe some in the media know this stuff and so they think that everybody does. I would argue that a lot of people do need this information. I don't think that the war in Afghanistan is something that people think about very often, but especially as we're getting geared up into another presidential election, I think that people need to know the cost of these sorts of conflicts to make sure that they don't put someone in office who will continue them or start new ones. And so I would love to see some pressure put on these outlets to actually pay attention to this report. It's very important. So anyway, that's pretty much what I've got. There's just 15 minutes before the main show starts. Brett Ehrlich is going to be joining me. He's going to be my in-studio co-host. But we also have a congressional candidate who's going to be in studio. He's running for office in California. His name is Cenk Uygur. So I'm going to be interviewing him about his race and some of the endorsements that he's gotten recently. And yeah, I'm also going to have British journalist Billy Porter is going to be Skyping in from the UK to talk about the results of the election yesterday. So we're going to have that for you in a bit of overtime later on today. Also, we'll be breaking down that Bloomberg dance video, the conservative squad that Fox is trying to make a thing. So it should be a fun show. Oh, and also, the moving forward and impeachment that happened earlier today. Evan Page, thank you very much. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining me, as always. And for those of you who hit the like button, I really do appreciate that. I got to go get ready with Brett, though. We got some big stuff planned, by the way, for the holiday. You're not going to see it anytime soon, necessarily, but we're recording some stuff that I think that in the end you guys are going to really enjoy. Okay, see you in a little bit.